And we are live. Good morning, Jared. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Happy coffee and crypto. How's it going? Where have you been, man? What's been going on? Crypto. Crypto has been, it's crazy because we went up yesterday, then we took a nice big drop this morning. Woke up to this. It's not really like that big. I mean, pullbacks are very, very normal. But we see how like it impacted ADA, especially going down again below $2. I don't know how confident I am in saying this, but I will say a Cardano under $2, probably a good deal. A lot of people have kind of seen where Cardano is going to go. Working Saturday is a lot. I mean, it's money, right? It's all about making that cheddar, being able to buy more crypto or fund more crypto addiction, depending on your perspective of it. I probably say it's more the latter of an addiction at this point, to like drop a good amount of my paychecks into cryptocurrency. But you know, it is what it is, I suppose. Cardano sitting at $1.59, XRP at $1.07. Ethereum is down below its all-time high, pulled back actually a considerable amount, down to 42.80. Still fairly high, right? We're still above the candle, still within that wick territory of previous all-time high, but definitely held a lot more support into this all-time high. We actually closed in an all-time high, which is pretty cool to see for Ethereum. So a lot of big things coming with the crypto market, but obviously Ethereum's like one of the first canaries in the coal mine to really do anything. Of course, we have other tokens, like we have so many like meme tokens too. And I know they're not meme tokens. I'm gonna try not to shit on them too much, because I mean they're trying to be real tokens, right? Like Shiba Inu is up like 146% on the week. They're doing like really crazy stuff with the payments and everything else. Apparently a French like bistro is taking sheep. I mean, like the bistro owner must just be bullish, right? But it's up 146%, and you can't really deny something like that. It's doing actually pretty well for being a Doge-like coin. So I don't own any. I just thought that this was interesting to see Shiba Inu do so well. Obviously, it's on a pullback today, but it's definitely done pretty well over the last little while. If you look at that chart compared to other cryptos, with this market being as volatile as it's been been doing pretty well. Polkadot, I haven't looked at Polkadot today. What's happening with Polkadot? Polkadot's holding strong, just like yesterday and the drop before. Like even with this drop, it stayed within this range. I love it staying above that $40, because we were so easy like back here. I love the differences when you look at the differences between the April-May drop, right? So we dropped in May, and Polkadot just capitulated right with it. Like it literally had no support at these levels, and then ended up going down to that bare bones $10 Polkadot, right? Now we see market drops, and Polkadot's really not even flinching. Polkadot's holding pretty well throughout everything. I see this as a consolidation. I still think Polkadot needs to make a move upwards towards all-time highs. So definitely past that $50, $51 Polkadot, but definitely going there. Do I think that Bitcoin is Bitcoin staggering is a sell-off signal? It could be. So like, here's the thing. Like, I think there's a lot more room for where Bitcoin's going to go. And like, it could be, right? The reason why I'm not sure is because maybe the volume, it's not. This is hard to say because the volume is low, but the volume has been low basically since May. Even before then, like we had that spike in May for the drop, but even before that area, it was still very low. So I don't know that the staggering could be a sell-off sign, but it's possible. It's possible that we have another big correction coming in. I do think that we're going to hit a market peak into 2022, but even if we do get a correction, I don't think it'll be very, very long. If we do correct for a little bit, I think it'll go back on track, mainly because the trend, like we have this bullish trend down where we're definitely out of this here, and starting to make these all-time highs. So pullbacks might be normal. Some targets that we might look at for a Bitcoin pullback potentially is maybe 52,000, back to this peak here. then maybe again at 48,000, 49,000, somewhere around there. And then all the way down below at 40,000 would be a pretty decent level of support for Bitcoin. So I'd probably say if we do pull back, we'll see some of those numbers, but we're not going to see something like we did here. I don't know if we will ever see a Bitcoin down at 30K again. I actually don't know that we will. And that's very hard for me to say, considering we had this drop from here. I think Ben has a lot of different, or a lot of the same perspectives, but like he has some really good arguments about a lot of them. Especially when you're talking about lengthening market cycles. Like a lot of people are saying that we're ending. A lot of people said that we were going to end in September. A lot of people are saying that now we're ending in December. And they're going to keep moving the dates. Like the Mayan calendar, everyone's going to die. What was it? December 26, 2016, or whatever the date was. They always move back this date, and that's always what's going to happen. Until eventually we're going to realize that lengthening market cycles is most likely the most realistic. Not saying that stock to flow isn't a useful model, but something like the lengthening cycle makes a lot more sense. Obviously, that doesn't mean that we're going to go higher. Like, I don't believe in an exact super cycle in the way. How's it going, Vapor? Let's see. You got okay. So I don't know if I should just call you the freaking Oracle now. Is this like a new YouTube channel name, or what's going on there? Nice to see you, man. Welcome Saturday. He's probably right in a lot of ways. Who really can predict things like the market? The thing that I like that Ben does is he really dissects exactly like things that have happened in the past and explains very clearly why they could happen in the future. And he articulates very well why a lengthening market cycle could be a thing rather than a smaller cycle, right? Or a 4-year cycle. And I think right now, like, we know that this cycle is now longer than the last cycle, longer than 2017 by a couple of days. We just passed this threshold. And we're probably going to go, if I had to speculate, we're probably going to go sometime into March 2022 before we see a peak. So sometime between now and March 2022, we could potentially see a peak. That doesn't mean that we couldn't see a peak longer, and it doesn't mean that we couldn't see a peak shorter. But I'd probably say that the chances of us seeing a peak in December are lessening and lessening every day that we go, especially when we get pullbacks like this. And now pullbacks are super healthy for a market like this. You know what I mean? So it definitely works out that we get some pullbacks, keep that health within that market. Decided that I made some good there you go. Now you're the Oracle. Yeah, well, like, I mean, like the 100 and what is it? We were just talking about it before you got in. The 147% on Shiba Inu. Definitely, like, it like, to me, it's a meme, but at the same time, it also has value. It also has a product. It's also doing things. And I mean, it's up 147%. I see this as a huge bullish indicator for the crypto market in general when you see meme tokens pump like that, but definitely. Lengthening market cycle is clearly what's happening. I definitely agree. Like, if you look at stock to flow says that right now we should be at 100K. And I think that's why a lot of people are like, oh, well, like, we're coming to a market peak and we're going to peak out 100K, because they expect that we're getting to 100K within like in next couple of weeks. Like, we're knocking on the door. I don't think so. I don't think that that's where we're at. I think the market is not that bullish that we are going to pump that much, right? So, you know, at least not right now. Like, we are going to get to that 100K, probably more like the 150K for Bitcoin, but it is most likely going to be in 2022. How's it going, Nikki? So, like, I don't think we have this happening anytime soon, right? Like, well, as soon as in weeks, which a lot of stock to flow model people have been saying. But that being said, stock to flow is still important, even in the lengthening market cycle realm, mainly because of identifier for the halvening, right? So we are able to identify how stock to flow goes. It's a helpful model, and it helps us kind of gauge exactly where crypto will go, or at least Bitcoin will go, in terms of price compared to the halvening. But that being said, I think I would probably say, and I'd speculate this, of course, but I'd probably say at one point in our future, at one point with Bitcoin will go through two halvenings through one entire market cycle. I don't know if this is going to happen 10 cycles from now, if it's going to happen 5 cycles from now. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but eventually the market cycle will lengthen to a point where it's having multiple halvenings throughout the market cycle. I truly believe that that's most likely where the market's going to go. I could be wrong, but I probably say that that's the most realistic thing, that eventually we're just going to extend our market cycles, especially when you look at something like gold, right? Like gold's market cycle, sometimes gold can go on a 12-year run. Sometimes it can be on like a 24-year total market cycle. So these market cycles aren't short for things like gold and things like other metals, right? So definitely, I think lengthening market cycle is most likely the correct theory, at least for most things. There we go, dubious speculation, man. Maybe we'll I'd want to build my own type of TA, right? Like Ben has house TA. I want to leave him with house TA. But one day we'll think of something to draw here and make some TA. But I think for that we need more short-term live streams. I found it funny though when I was watching his video on Ethereum always going home, and he draws a house, but he actually made that into a very serious video, and I loved it because he's right. Eventually Ethereum is going to go home. We might get that pullback, right? But eventually Ethereum's going to get home. And I do feel that as well with Ethereum. So we have a lot of health in the market as well, generally. A lot of big news is happening too, especially with XRP. One big thing is XRP's Q3 report. So if you don't know, because everyone gives the FUD saying XRP, or Ripple, I should say, prints XRP and gives it to whoever, or gives it to them, right? They print XRP into existence. No rhyme or reason, they just do it, right? That's what a lot of people say. Now, of course, that's FUD because nobody understands exactly what's happening. Now, it's very easy to understand because all you need to do is go to Ripple's website, go read the quarterly reports to see exactly where those withdrawals from the escrow are going, right? So the XRP's already been made. It's in escrow. And it's been in escrow since it was gifted to Ripple from the creators of XRP, which are also the people that made Ripple. So it's not like it was gifted from like creators to Ripple. It was gifted by the people that created it that then made Ripple, right? So at this point, we understand, okay, the escrow's there. But in terms of what's going on with XRP, there's way more liquidity in the system. In terms of what's happening in the transactions in the ledger, they've increased a huge amount over the last little while, going up to 74.5 billion XRP in volume. And then lastly, they've actually, in September of 2021, Ripple sent the last amount, or at least I think Jed McCaleb sold the last amount. I could be wrong in saying that. Jed McCaleb sold the last amount of XRP. So there's no more pressure from Jed McCaleb, which wasn't really that much pressure in general. Now, it's actually, if we look at where XRP is, it's holding very, very well in terms of the chart, holding a lot of support, considering everything else is down roughly 1% or so. Now, again, I'm not stressing these percent pullbacks, right? Like Solana took a hit at 4%. Polkadot's even at 3%. Not that bad, though. Bitcoin, 1.4%, right? Like this pullback is nothing. This is very, very par for the course. But XRP is holding pretty well. We know that this case is coming soon to finality. Whether it'll be on Ripple's side or the SEC side, still yet to be seen. But I think there's a lot to say that it'll most likely go right to Ripple's side. No shame in having influences. We appreciate you because no bullshit and solid content. Thanks, man. I try to get better, right? Obviously, learning more about the markets and learning more about making good videos. I feel like some of my content needs to be a little bit more engaging, but we're working on it. It's a work in progress here, right? So. Until more projects are built on layer 2 on other coins, ETH will always rule. I agree. So there's a lot of other tokens and a lot of capability for layer 2. One big one is Matic. Matic's done very well. I don't wonder how it's holding up in the current drop. I'd speculate that it's doing pretty well. Yeah, it is. So obviously it's been on that tear, even though the market was kind of like sideways, even though the market went down that one day. Matic just... I'm not stopping. I'm just going to go up because it's a good layer 2. It's a good layer 2 option to Ethereum, which is why Ethereum's doing so well. Now, Ethereum, of course, we're going to hit somewhere like I really think at this point 10K is in the cards. How's it going, Mike? I think 10K is definitely in the cards for Ethereum. Maybe not like near term. Near term is in like a couple weeks, right? But definitely before the end of the market peak, I think we can peak a lot higher for something like Ethereum. And definitely like that's going to bring along Matic and everything else. Matic's doing very well. There's a lot of other layer 2 tokens, but I don't think any of them have the same amount of hype as Matic. Harmony One is actually doing pretty well. Last I checked, let me pull up the chart. Now I haven't bought any more since I like bought way back. I want to say I bought like, oh God, I made a video when I bought, that's for sure. I definitely bought, I want to say probably around this zone, right? Probably around that August, September zone is when I bought. So roughly between the 10 to 17 cents. It's doing very well. If you look at the chart, it's doing very well. Obviously, we have this pullback caused by the crypto pullback, but it's up. If you look at the ROI total, it's up 10,000%. Like, that's not small, right? If we look at, where is it here? Okay, so the 7-day, we're up 23%. Definitely not as much as Shiba Inu, doing the 140. But it's still 23% in the 7 days is really good. Up in the 14 days, 51%, 30 days, 129%, and on the year, 7,700% for Harmony One. So it's definitely done very well in the performance. Can it go higher? Of course, it can go higher. When you look at the rank, it's ranked 54 in the tokens. The market cap is 3.5 billion, and the total supply is 13 billion tokens with a 10 billion, 10.6 circulating supply. So it shows that there's a lot more room for it to go up, right? Being only a $3.5 billion market cap and rank 54. My way on estimating where tokens could go is usually by looking at other market caps and identifying, okay, what could Harmony One hit as a market cap with the ecosystem? Obviously, it's a lot of speculation. It's not so much due to charts. It's more due to the fundamentals of the project. It's like looking into a company, right? Are they hitting earning reports? Are they actually doing work? Are they profitable? That kind of stuff that you would look at. Could it hit $1? You're essentially asking, could it a little bit more than double its market cap? I think so. Bringing it up to, say, rank 20 in cryptocurrencies. Rank 20 would be approximately $11.2 trillion, which should be above $1 at that point because there's 10.6 billion tokens circulating around, so just above $1. So could it hit like rank 20, right? Around Algorand's level right now. I would look at it and be like, well, are you more bullish on one than some of the tokens that you see here? Like, are you more bullish than Algorand or Cosmos or Bitcoin Cash, for example, or even Litecoin, right? So if you're looking at it from that perspective, you're like, yeah, you know what? I could see it at the market cap of, say, Litecoin, or I could see it at the market cap of Algorand. Then you're most likely going to see something like that that $1 Harmony One. Now, Harmony One has a lot of DeFi stuff going on with it, has a lot of different dApps, and on top of that, there's what the statistics on it. Like, it's one of the faster cryptocurrencies. I think the fastest is still HBAR. I think that's a true statement, but it is one of the fastest cryptocurrencies out there. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to Harmony One, right? Apparently they had their, I don't think this has been updated for a while, at least this information on the website. So I'd have to look at exactly what's available. But I assume they have bridges at this point. I assume they have DeFi dApps and everything else that they've been working on. So there's a lot going on with the Harmony One ecosystem. It's something to be aware of. If you don't have exposure, I'd highly encourage you to at least pick some up, because it definitely has potential to go higher than what it is. But bought Harmony One at 2 cents. Very, very nice. I still look back at when I bought ADA at around 3 cents, give or take, and I kind of kick myself because it was kind of like, I got my friend into cryptocurrency, and he was buying ADA and told me like, oh, I should buy ADA, like this really cool token, like you should get into it. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll just buy some. But I was like so focused on other cryptocurrencies. So I bought some, and I didn't think about it. Like I think I only put like a couple $100. It wasn't even a lot. Ended up being one of the better trades that I made in terms of ROI percentage of gain for something like that. It's a super good feeling when you buy a token like Harmony One or like Cardano. Well, it's at its bare bones bottom, especially if you weren't expecting it to go high. A Chad move, unless like it would have been a Chad move if I dropped a lot more money onto it. That's for sure. Would have been a Chad move if I bought more Bitcoin at 4K. So still, there's a lot. Have I looked into Satama mask? I'm assuming is it developed off of MetaMask, or is it separate from that? I'd have to look into the platform, but I'm assuming it's like MetaMask, like essentially how MetaMask would work, right? Let's see, Satama Mask on November 13th. It's coming out. Let me just put this up in the screen here. And like at this point, we need to start looking more at stuff like this in terms of like having some exposure to tokens like this. It's not bad to have something like Satama or Shiba Inu or any of these tokens really in your portfolio. There's obviously, in my opinion, like there's a lot more solid futuristic builds, but that being said, it's not like these tokens are going anywhere. Like Dogecoin. The real meme about Dogecoin, for example, is it's a harder asset than the United States dollar. And if these programs are fundamentally doing things like providing liquidity farming, like providing smart DEXs, then yeah, I mean, it's a good product regardless of the origins. And I know a lot of them are trying to shake off that meme kind of persona that they originally had. And they're taking things a lot more seriously, which I kind of respect. So I'd probably say that this is this a mobile? It's a smart wallet. But I don't know if that means like smart as in smartphone, mobile. It is a mobile app, without leaving the mobile app. So it's like the Fearless wallet for, say, Kusama, right? So it's like the Fearless wallet. So interesting. I mean, like, I don't have a lot of Satama or a lot of Shiba Inu. Like literally only $100 in each, like a couple weeks ago. So, you know, I guess it is what it is for me. I'm not going to be doing any liquidity farming anytime soon. Although I should, but, you know. Is it still worth getting into one? I've been eyeing it for months. I'd probably say it's, so here's my general rule, right? Like Harmony One, it's not, okay, I want to be careful in how I say this. It's not overextended, right? But that being said, it could pull back. So my best advice for something like Harmony One is definitely take a dollar cost average approach. Don't put in so much money that if we do see a massive pullback, you're like upset that you pulled out. But still, like, you know, it's like for me with Solana, right? Like I was really late to the party with Solana, and I started dollar cost averaging around $131, $140, right? So yes, it's gone up, right? But when I was buying Solana, it was super, super extended. But I was justifying that, hey, this market can go a lot higher than what it is right now, and I either get it now or I don't get in at all, right? So that was my thinking behind Solana. I'd probably say the thinking would happen for you the same way on Harmony One. Now, I'm not saying go buy it, but I am saying that it has a good ecosystem and a good structure that it's going to do very well. So I mean, I would is all I'm saying. I would probably buy a little bit, but that's only if you don't have any, right? I've definitely taken profits from Harmony One. I've taken profits from HBAR, but like not a lot. Like we're talking about a little bit of profits and some like portfolio restructuring. Basically, I was selling some not selling positions, but selling some stuff and going into others. Internet computer has been interesting, right? Because we had all that hype for internet computer, then it died down. Now we see this massive drop that we've had over the last little while. Like, let's take a look at it. Wow, it's so much further down than it was before. What did it even hit? Like all-time high? It was like over 100, right? Was it not? Internet computer went through like massive pumps. Yeah, it was getting up to like that 84. It had massive hype. Like the Coin Bureau was talking about ICP. Everyone was talking about ICP. And then that drop happened. And now here we are with this chart. And it seems like an extended bleed. But really, like it's giving a good opportunity to get in at 50% of the price, I would say. So definitely doing very well. Is it... Harmony One's tokenomics are the worst in the smart contract platforms. Maybe it depends. Yeah, so the best time to buy is definitely like when it's consolidating at a low, right? At a massive low, and being like almost 50% of what it is here. I want to switch really, really quick to take a look at the tokenomics here to kind of outline. Let's see if they have them on the website. Ecosystem, probably not going to find them. Okay. Usually I go to CoinGecko for that kind of stuff anyway. I went vegan 2 weeks ago and my P has been green. Is this a buy signal? It's a bullish signal. Bitcoin is going north only because Jared's P is green. So there we go. I'd have to open up. I'd assume I'd have to get into the white paper. If you tell me, Evan, what you think specifically is bad about the tokenomics, we can actually tackle that and talk about it. I don't know like too much of the ins and outs, but I'd love to get into a discussion and learn more about it. I know that the blockchain itself is fundamentally doing things that even Ethereum isn't doing right now, like sharding and everything else. But obviously, that's coming for ETH 2.0. But we'll shelf that for another time. Let's see. Do I have any news here? Australian securities regulators issue a new positive guidelines. Not really. Like, who cares about what Australia is doing right now? They're not. I mean, like they're a big financial industry, sure, but they're not major finance like U.S. The one thing that I wanted to bring up is this article. So Bitcoin price is ready to rally. And this is important because I want people to recognize here that Bitcoin is not done, right? Altcoins are kind of pumping a little bit right now. Well, not right this second, but they have been pumping. But Bitcoin kind of took a pullback. But I think that there's still more room for Bitcoin to move up forwards and go north, which is going to take a lot of value from other altcoins. So we'll see a lot of altcoins kind of bleed to Bitcoin when Bitcoin's pumping, and that's very, very normal. Hold on, let me just mute so I don't get notifications there. So what do I mean by that? Now, I was saying this before when Bitcoin was going on this big tear up to back to all-time high, and say Cardano was doing nothing. All these tokens were basically sitting flat and really doing nothing. Like, we did see some movement. Say we saw Polkadot, right? For example, that was going up. but not much else. And then we obviously had Ethereum, which Ethereum kind of beats to its own drum, right? So if we look at, say, the dominance here, we have Bitcoin dominance at 42%, which that's gone down over the last couple of days, and Ethereum at 18.5%, which has gone up in the last couple of days, right? So Ethereum's really just going on its own path. It still follows Bitcoin for the most part, but it definitely can pump regardless of what Bitcoin's doing, depending on what's happening with Ethereum. We'll call it the pumpamentals, as Ivan on Tech calls it. So obviously Ethereum has a lot more pumpamentals to get to those points. So SafeMoon, do you think it's a good buy token to buy right now? I mean, so last time I didn't have a good argument because I didn't prepare for anything. So I'm gonna be careful about what I say, but I will say, in my opinion, I'm not invested in SafeMoon. I mean, like, I bought 1 million SafeMoon for $6, and it's down to $1, right? I don't know the tokenomics behind SafeMoon. I don't understand the project fully. If it's a legit project, maybe. But I don't know. But a lot of people like it. Last time I shit on SafeMoon and said it could be a Ponzi, a lot of people jumped on my throat. But I don't know. I don't know if it's that I don't trust Dave Portnoy or what the issue is. But I've just heard bad things about SafeMoon, but I haven't taken an honest to God look to really determine whether or not it's a good investment. I would say, at least, if you trust the investment and you trust the project of SafeMoon, I will say any project that you trust that is on a downcline or a extended bleed is probably a good buying opportunity. That being said, I am going to be cautious with this because I'm not telling anyone to buy SafeMoon, because in my opinion, I don't know. It's a hard one to answer. I'm not trying to shit on anyone's coins, okay? I'm really, 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 really not. But I think SafeMoon is a glorified Ponzi. I think. I don't have a good argument for that, from what I've read, from what I've heard, and from the hype that I get from the community. It doesn't seem good. But a lot of people think some of my coins are shit coins, right? A lot of people think that XRP is a shit coin. So, it is what it is. Maybe I'm just throwing shit when I'm getting shit back. So invest at your own risk. So obviously not too SafeMoon friendly here. Apologies for that. One article, Steve Wozniak. Now this kind of depends on which side of the camp you were in. If you were on the camp of Steve Jobs is a genius, or Steve Jobs is a poser, and Steve Wozniak is actually the brains behind everything, which I would agree. In terms of a lot of ways, Steve Jobs, how do I word this? Steve Jobs innovated the tech space that we have today to be a specific type of culture of never giving up and really focusing on things. Yeah, if I do the same thing, Bunks. I'm absolutely fine with buying some meme coins. I really, really, really am. Like, I have Doge, I have Sheep, I have I even have SafeMoon, even though I just shit on it. Not a lot, but like 1 million SafeMoon tokens bought at $6, right? Like, I have some of these tokens, but I don't have as much as like my Cardano, right? XRP being 38% of my portfolio, Bitcoin being 12% of my portfolio, Cardano being 11%, Ethereum being somewhere around 11%. Then we have Polkadot, right? Like, I have solid tokens at the top to allow me to just chuck some money into some of these meme tokens that end up doing very well in a market. And then you're happy to take profits out of those projects and not out of the other projects, right? So I would just... yeah, I just wouldn't be investing that much into it. But that being said, I mean, there are Dogecoin millionaires and there are Sheep billionaires at this point. I think, yeah, the guy literally made $1 billion on Sheep. But he says there can never be another Bitcoin, which I think is important for people to recognize. And especially, I feel a lot of maximalism. At least when Bitcoin maximalists attack altcoins, what I feel there is that they're being defensive, right? They're being defensive as in your token can't overtake my token, right? And they're very they're very primal about their territory of Bitcoin, right? Like we see, like I think Anthony Pompliano, incredibly smart individual, he knows his stuff, but he's so laser focused on Bitcoin. Same with Michael Saylor, right? He's so super hyper laser focused on Bitcoin. But it's important to note that nothing is going to replace Bitcoin. Nothing will ever replace Bitcoin. Bitcoin will always be good, and it'll always be one of the best stores of value, even over Ethereum, even past what Ethereum's capability is. That's because of the scarcity of Bitcoin. That's because you can't print any more Bitcoin. It's because Bitcoin, millions of Bitcoin is lost, and once it is lost, it's gone. You're not getting it again unless you somehow get the private keys for it. That is literally the only way. And if it's one of those old hard drives that are in a landfill, like that Bitcoin is gone. And all this early Bitcoin that was mined is now just out of circulation, right? So there's never going to be another Bitcoin or a more elegant store of value than Bitcoin is. Now, how it was created, obviously, there's a little bit of fuzz there in terms of what happened. In my opinion, a lot of it was whoever created it, being Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever created it definitely did it under the pseudonym to avoid retaliation from, say, United States governments and everything else. I would say a big player that I would probably say is actually involved in making Bitcoin. If Satoshi Nakamoto is one person, this guy is Satoshi. If Satoshi Nakamoto is a group, he was definitely part of this group, is David Chaum. Now, the reason why I say David Chaum is because he's the grandfather of digital cash. He made something called DigiCash way before Bitcoin. The FBI actually confronted him and told him how damaging it would be to American democracy and American sovereignty, and basically giving some, very carefully worded threats to David Chaum. He has an interview when he was talking about this. If you look at his pre-university work, his dissertation was written with double spaces, and his dissertation was talking about networks and computers and cryptography, right? That sounds very, very familiar, right? That sounds like blockchain technology. In fact, his dissertation was basically explaining exactly what blockchain technology is. So interesting stuff. I would speculate that someone like him would probably want to avoid any naming to the FBI, which is obviously why we will probably never see any Satoshi coins move for Bitcoin. Probably never going to happen. But at this point, I think, in my opinion, Satoshi Nakamoto is alive and well. He's actually working on a project, which is the XX coin. That's actually coming out with XX Messenger. Essentially, they're looking to be the WeChat, the almost WeChat of cryptocurrency. If obviously anyone that's not from China doesn't know what, the intricacies of WeChat, we probably have WeChat in our capacity, but in China, WeChat is their payment. WeChat is everything. WeChat is literally just how they get by. They send money through WeChat, everything. So that's basically what David Chaum is trying to do with the decentralized messaging application. And that's also important when we're looking at our government today, when we're looking at what's going on in this world. Because, yes, there's a lot of things that, I think we need to be protected from in general. Right, I agree with that, but I don't agree with giving up freedoms and rights and everything else solely in the name of protection or just to be safe. That's what we did back in 9/11, and look how well that happened with the Patriot Act starting in the United States, the NSA mass surveillance, leading into some of the most egregious moves on a lot of military action over the next couple of years, going into a multi-year long war. And then we see this mass surveillance popping up in other areas of the world, one being China being huge mass surveillance, really looking like George Orwell's novel. We're stepping into this new world where our social imprint is very important in what's happening. I don't use Facebook. I haven't used Facebook in years. I have a Facebook. I don't log into it. I have it so I can talk in Messenger. and the occasional like birthday thing pops up, so I remember whose birthday is when. I literally don't look at the app. I see a birthday notification, I close that notification, and I go text that person and I say happy birthday. It's literally the only use that I have for Facebook right now, and I would argue that that's even too much to give Facebook. Personally, I don't think their rename to Meta is going to help them in any way. But I think we're in an area of time that we really need to start looking at government control and mass surveillance in a very serious light. And how can we avoid where we were heading? Because in my opinion, we're kind of heading for this collision course for this kind of government oversight, big brother taking care of us. So we really need to look at how do we regulate things safely, and how do we regulate things so the government doesn't have ultimate control over everything. Now, that being said, I'm not for small government necessarily, even though I probably say a lot of people in cryptocurrency are libertarian, which I respect those views, definitely. But I'm not small government. I am pro-regulation when we have proper regulations in place. That being said, like, we need regulators that know what the fuck they're talking about, right? Like, we need people that actually know Bitcoin, know cryptocurrency, and know like issues, and not just doing things because they're being lobbied, right? When they're being lobbied by things like big pharma and all these big organizations, we see things like the opiate epidemic happening in the United States, which the opiate epidemic, you could probably say, was funded a lot by the United States government, right? Actually, a lot of the United States government was actually implicated in bringing in opiates in Vietnam through military planes. So, you know, the government isn't your friend, and you shouldn't look at the government as your friend. So having technologies like cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin, like XX coin, like all these other cryptocurrencies is going to be very important, especially when they're decentralized, and the cryptology behind it makes it so governments cannot interfere with your day-to-day actions. Like, if you look at what China's doing with blockchain and what China's doing with the digital yuan, the only reason, I'm going to put this on the price chart while I talk about this, the only reason that China is even doing well, the only reason that they don't want Bitcoin and they want the digital yuan is because they realize the fundamental use of blockchain technology. They realize how important blockchain technology is, but they also want full control of all their people, what they buy, where that money goes, and understand exactly what's happening with it, right? Like, the U.S. just smacked down the law that they could peer into your bank accounts with $500 of funds. Now, $500 is not a lot, and then they upped it to $14,000, which is also not a lot to a lot of middle-class people, right? A lot of people have $14K in their bank account just sitting there. And for the government just to peer in because you have $14K is very intrusive, because you can have $14,000 for very innocent reasons, right? Like, there are anti-money laundering laws and KYC laws for a reason, to identify bad actors. Simply having money in your bank account does not instigate government being able to look into your bank account and see what you're doing, right? So there's a lot of things that you really gotta be careful with. Hey, Flea Market, really appreciate that, man. That $10 super chat, man. That's awesome. Great content. Love your channel. Appreciate that, bro. We're trying to get better. This is a work in progress, right? Over time, definitely gonna get better at this whole thing with videos and everything else. So I again really appreciate the support and the kind words. It's been actually a crazy ride if you think about it with the channel, because we started back in, I want to say, December. So we're coming up to a year. We are like really close to a year on YouTube for this channel, which is pretty cool. I think that's a pretty big milestone. We've gained a lot in terms of like the subscribers. We're at almost 3,200 subscribers, doing very well with everything. So it's definitely going to take some time. It's definitely a progress, but hopefully I can keep bringing you guys good content. So I really appreciate that. So it's important now that we really take a very specific approach to how we regulate things like cryptocurrency, and how we look at people running in the future and who we vote for, and we really need to vote intentionally, and that's very important. And I'm not even going to say like my political alignment. I don't think that really matters in this context of things. What we need to look to and what we need to vote for is a free future, a future with regulated markets. I'm not saying non-regulated markets, but I'm saying regulation that doesn't stifle innovation and regulation that's not overly intrusive on the people. I think that's very, very important for where we go next. Because in my opinion, like I haven't lived through a lot. Like I'm not like saying like, oh, like the amount of stuff that I lived in, like way past like World War I or World War II. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying, however, in the time that I've been alive, this is by far the most pivotal point in history, in the time that I've been alive. Now I've been alive through 9/11, like I was born in 1990. So like I have a crazy memory, so just put that out there. I'm actually not lying. I literally remember on the news the Gulf War, the flashes that were happening in Kuwait. Like that's all I remember, right? That literally I just remember my parents watching the TV, night vision is on, and you just see flashes from the bombs. So like I've seen a lot. Like I've seen a lot of moments in history, not as big as say like Saigon and Vietnam and everything. But like if you look at 2021 or even 2019 to 2021, it's been an insane couple of years. Like we saw some incredible things that I thought would never ever happen. So it's crazy, but we're at this real big turning point. Same thing with 9/11. When 9/11 happened, everyone was so fearful that they gave up a lot of rights. The same thing happens here. We have a lot of different crises that are happening right now with supply shortages, with China's encroachment on other powers, because I do believe China in a lot of ways is trying to legislate a lot of people. Maybe not have full control of China, of everyone outside of China, but they definitely want people to know that China is not to be fucked with, which I think is a growing issue that people need to be aware of. Now, I am strictly speaking about the CCP. I'm not speaking about like Hong Kong or Taiwan, even though Hong Kong is being brought back into the CCP power. Obviously, there have been protests that have been trying to happen, and obviously Taiwan is a country outside of China until China comes in, and that's looking like the next step for China. And I think if China does something like that, we'll kind of I think that should open up people's eyes. But unfortunately, in this day and age, I don't think much is going to happen if, say, China did move on Taiwan. But I think the crux of my point here, because I've gone on a huge tangent about, Big Brother control and everything else. The crux of my point here is how much we need cryptology and cryptocurrency. It doesn't need to be things like Murano or what's the other secret coin, whatever it is. I'm bullish on all of them, to be honest. You should hold at least some in your portfolio, legally, of course. Legally, pay your taxes. But those kind of tokens are going to be needed. Yes, some of it is going to be used for illicit activities. I don't think you can avoid that, right? How much of the United States dollar is being used for illicit activities? A lot more than cryptocurrencies, right? A lot more. Probably say the United States dollar has funded way more terrorism than Bitcoin has ever funded. Maybe that's an unpopular assumption, but if you look at how the Al-Qaeda was formed by the U.S. funding the Mujahideen for all those decades to fight the Soviets, U.S. dollars funded terrorism, right? In a lot of ways. So if you look at cryptocurrency, is it any different? Cryptocurrency is a currency, right? It's going to fund drugs. It's going to fund all these other bad things that we don't want to happen, but it's going to happen because that's how human beings are. We do shitty shit. We do things that are bad for society, and we are going to use any type of currency, whether that be gold, whether it be a barter trade system, whether it be United States dollar, or whether it be cryptocurrency. So anyone saying that cryptocurrency is used for illicit problems and not good, it doesn't fundamentally know how humans work. We're always going to find things. Hell, people do illegal shit with RuneScape gold, right? Like literally buying and selling RuneScape gold as currency. So there's a lot of reasons why cryptocurrency is literally going to save us from, or at least attempt, or be one tool that we can use to save us from a totalitarian world inching into the next, say 20 years, which is my big concern, right? I live in Canada. I'm pretty lucky that like I don't live in like somewhere like China or somewhere like, say, Myanmar, going through the military coup and everything, or somewhere like in South Africa. I can't remember which country just had a military coup. But, at least knowing that we have cryptocurrencies to allow those people to have some sort of grab outside of their government is very important. Very important for people to be able to buy a currency or an asset that is outside of the regulation arms of their government, which obviously China is working very hard to ban cryptocurrency. And I firmly believe, out of the FUD in China, I think the next step is most likely a seizure of cryptocurrency. And that probably sounds a little bit harder than you think it is. But it's not hard at all for someone like the government, someone like China, to seize cryptocurrency, mainly because they track everything in their internet. Their internet is completely like closed off internet to the rest of the world. So it'd be very easy for them to go in and take people's Bitcoin. I truly believe that that's the next step. And we will see similar, because this isn't new too. If people are thinking that this is new and like, oh, the governments would never take away your asset. Well, governments took away gold. Governments have taken away assets traditionally in bad times. And someone like China, when they're trying to hold power with the blockchain and creating the digital yuan, they're not going to want their people to use Bitcoin. It's very simple. So, but there's a lot going on in this year and in the last couple of years that's just been really jarring for a lot of things. It's all about control. That's always what it comes down to. It's about control and money, right? If you look at especially someone like China, you have like the mass surveillance happening. But like a lot of that is being imported, right? Because we see what's happened in Afghanistan. And I think there's a lot of big things that have happened that are really good with cryptocurrency, right? Like, what is it? The female computer science group, this group in Afghanistan, woman empowerment group, basically were able to fund them and their families getting out of the country when the Taliban took over with cryptocurrencies, with their wallets that they created, right? These women were able to take themselves out of that country, incoming the oppressive regime of the Taliban. But who supports the Taliban, which is a very important thing to ask. That would be China. China is offering the Taliban a lot of stuff, a lot of money for their Belt and Road Initiative. Now, what comes with that is usually a surveillance system, right? What I mean by that is China has this technology, and China is ready to implement that technology for the Taliban, for the Afghanistan. Well, I'm gonna call them the Afghan government because they're technically the government, right? There is no other government at this point. That government toppled, Taliban has taken over. So the Chinese government, the CCP, will fund the Taliban building a similar surveillance state that China has. And being that close to China, it's not that hard to see. So really, I think now our big concern, at least for the rest of the world, is how much control China has on things like global markets and everything else, and how much China has control of other countries, which is something specifically, and I'm probably going to call out my own country here, something specifically that I've been a little bit worried about in terms of Canada. Just how quickly we will capitulate to Chinese authority. And then you see some like actors like Giant Cena and a bunch of others really toting the CCP line, which I think is a dangerous precedent to set when we're agreeing and siding with China on things that shouldn't be disputable, like Taiwan being a country, right? Like Hong Kong should remain a democracy. Like the very pivotal things that we believe in the westernized world. very important things. We believe in freedom and democracy and your right to choose. And China just coming in with their kind of for the greater good of the CCP, for the greater good of the party. It's a total different mentality than what people are used to here, at least. And if you look at history, it hasn't done well in history over the course of time. Maybe it's done well for those governments. Maybe it's made a lot of people a lot of money. But at the end of the day, it's been bad for the people, which is something to really keep in mind. All I'm saying at this point is that cryptocurrencies are really our way out of, or having some sort of retaliation against these modes of control, against these massive machines of control, because that's what they are. When you look at something like, say, the NSA, the United States surveillance system, it's such a massive black budget system that had so much black money coming into it before it was whistleblown. That it, like, how do you dismantle something like the NSA? How do you take that power away from the government when the government already has it? Same thing goes with the CCP, right? So there's a lot of fear. I'd probably say that we are living through one of the most critical times in our history in terms of definitely the 21st century, but I also think probably within the last 100 years. I do, in a lot of ways, see what's happening right now leading up to something that might end up being bigger than, say, a World War II event in terms of global geopolitical issues. Now, well, does that mean that we're going to get into a war? I don't think so. I'm just saying that, with starvation, with overpopulation, with economic issues, we're definitely going to come into a lot of issues in the next couple years that are going to highlight. So I don't know. That's a big rant on a lot of stuff that maybe people don't really care about, but it's something that I definitely don't sleep well at night thinking about things like that. So it's just something to be aware of. Yeah, I think a lot of people, in my opinion, like to kind of sweep it under the rug and not care about it. But this is why we need Bitcoin. This is why we need cryptocurrency. This is why David Chaum, Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever that is, probably David Chaum. But this is why Satoshi Nakamoto made Bitcoin in 2008, right? When we had the financial crisis, Hank Paulson literally hands and knees begging to Nancy Pelosi to give him a bazooka to print an infinite amount of money that he would not use, right? His logic in having this bazooka, bazooka is obviously a metaphor. His logic in having this bazooka was literally, if you have the bazooka and people know you have the bazooka, you won't have to use the bazooka. Is his actual logic in that. And of course, he used the bazooka and we paid out all the banks, which shocks the shit out of me because everyone's like, Obama's a left president. Obama's a left president. Obama was easily the most pro Wall Street and right president that they've had, which blows my mind that a lot of people on the right hate Obama policies, even though he was a lot like the right policies. He was way more like Mitt Romney than like the other Democratic candidates at the time. Heavy talking, yeah, exactly. Hey, like sometimes we have to creep into that heavy talk. I have a lot of things that run in my head sometimes, and sometimes I just need to get it out, right? So this is sometimes that flow. I like to tie it into cryptocurrency though, make it relevant, right? Crypto's gonna save us. That being said, this is why I buy long-term crypto, right? Like, sure, I'm gonna take profits. Sure, I'm gonna increase my portfolio. Sure, I'm gonna do things to fundamentally help myself, like buy a house at some point and everything else when the housing market calms down, of course. But, well, at least in Canada. I don't know how you guys look in the States. For some people in the States, I'm super jealous. Like Austin, Texas, you can go get a 2-car garage for $300K. I wish I could get anything but a crack den for like $500-600K in Canada right now, or at least in the town that I'm living in, but the rest of Canada is not doing much better. I even, just shits and giggles, I looked at like the Yukon, and the prices are still high there. I do like the ethics aspect of crypto more than just making money. I definitely agree with you because there's a lot more, right? So like it's just I see where this technology is going, and I see what it could potentially do for humanity. So like I think about it, like, do I really want to sell this cryptocurrency? Do I want to sell this transformative technology, or do I want to hold on to it and leverage it to be able to build more, right? So I'm obviously taking that option. Now, I'm not advocating for not selling, right? I think the worst thing that you can do is go through a market cycle, hold all the way till the top, and then hold to the bottom. That being said, I would always advocate for having some exposure, not liquidating entire positions unless you don't believe in that position anymore. So for example, if like there was a token that you didn't like anymore, or that just went belly up and the project is dead, okay, liquidate it and go on to something else. But if you're like holding on to Cardano, for example, and Cardano's not doing anything and everything else is pumping, and why is Cardano sitting here at $1.97 and everything else is going super high? What's going on? Just hold. Don't sell your Cardano. And if you're going to take some profits, don't sell all of it, right? Have a position to ride out the pump for the rest of it. I'd probably say dynamic DCA. We need to take some power away from major influence. I definitely agree. Major institutions is a problem, right? So you have this issue right now. We're in a very interesting time when we're talking about and I hear you on that, Bongs. I definitely do. My brother's a lot more like that. I'm definitely a lot more of like a long-term holder, but I definitely understand that perspective. I truly do. I always say, even for a trader though, it's good to have a hodl bag that you don't touch, right? So some tokens that you're just like, okay, I'm just not touching this. I have a decent portfolio, just I don't usually move it around unless I need to. But Sodium, to go to your point there, we have such a different aspect right now where like corporations have in a lot of ways more control over governments, which is an issue in my opinion. Now, I'm all about free trade and lack of regulation. I want to state this before I go into what I'm going to say, because it is going to sound like I'm very much not into free trade and regulation. But as much as I am into free trade and everything else, I do agree with influential corporations having their power be brought down a couple of levels. One big one being Facebook, right? I don't like Mark Zuckerberg having so much power over our society. We didn't know in the initial onset of Facebook or cell phones or the internet how much we would actually give up to these companies and how much we would give up to these social platforms. So it's important to keep that in perspective. We have companies like Amazon that literally can just think about getting into an industry and then that industry starts bleeding, right? We have AWS, which is in a lot of ways a monopoly, the Amazon store, which is a monopoly in a lot of ways. I'm not a regulator. I'm not going to say how it should be regulated, but I don't think that we can just continue with a lot of this influential power consolidated in tech companies. I don't think that that's smart for a prosperous future, especially when so much money is leaving a lot of regular people and going to the Jeff Bezoses of the world. Cost of living is dramatically going higher because of the rampant printing of money. Inflation is going higher. It's harder for people to buy homes. It's harder for people to eat, while a lot of people are just maintaining their control over the tech industry, which is a kind of a dangerous thing. I swing trade, and like there's nothing wrong with swing trading, right? My whole thing about swing trading, the reason why I don't do it is I'm not that good at predicting short-term stuff, right? Like I'm more of a macroeconomics guy in terms of where it's going to go in the long term. And if you look at the general ROIs in terms of holding long-term, it's usually done well than short-term trading, but not saying that you can't do better, right? So if I would probably say this, and I would encourage everyone to like at least try to trade or swing trade, is do it. And if you lose some money and you suck at it, at least you know you suck at it. But some people really have a natural knack at trading. Some people really can make some money. So it is important. The gradual accumulation of a bigger companies swallowing up smaller ones, and the consolidation to the point only a handful of corporations hold so much influence over the daily person. I completely agree, because there's a lot of influence that, say, Amazon or Facebook has. And if you look at Amazon, literally really killing a lot of small businesses, a lot of major small businesses, and especially with this COVID pandemic and everything else, and like in the initial pandemic and the shutdowns were brutal on small businesses, absolutely brutal. And it seemed that the only companies actually getting money were Amazons, Walmarts, and all these big corporations that didn't need the money, right? Even in my opinion, I didn't even support things like bailouts on most plane companies. In my opinion, fuck them. Same thing with the cruise industry. I don't give a crap. I don't care what's going to happen. Hopefully you guys can survive. But at the end of the point, the only businesses that I actually legitimately care about are the small businesses. Because especially in Canada and in the United States, the small businesses are what props up our economy. The small businesses are our highest earners of tax revenue in terms of the business standpoint. So if we let small businesses die, we are letting our economies die in North America, which is being a huge issue with Amazon, Costco, and all these giant corporations that are just squeezing them to death and destroying them. So what does a free market look like? I would argue that a free market surely doesn't look like 3 box stores and a couple fast food joints, right? Like I would probably say pretty vehemently and adamantly that is not what a free market looks like. Now, I'm pro-regulation in a lot of ways. They just need to be carefully crafted to make sure to support small businesses and the power that small businesses can have. So every few years, we get a new Panama Papers and all dirty money and tax evading. Yeah, completely. And there's so many different tax loopholes, right? Like we have the one tax loophole that was just found out. I can't remember which country they were using. Maybe it's Bermuda. Maybe I don't know. But there's tons of tax loopholes. Actually, Canada. What's interesting about Canada is we have so much money coming in from China in terms of Yakuza. Is Yakuza Japanese? Probably. I'm probably saying that right. Chinese mobsters, right? Chinese corrupt money and crime money is coming into Canada because Canada is one of the easiest countries to launder your money in, right? Because our regulations in terms of that are so lax. It's actually a problem. So yeah, crony capitalism isn't a free market. I completely agree with that statement. As much as it seems like it. So, like, I would probably say, am I for breaking up things like Facebook, breaking up things like Amazon? To a degree, and it depends on how much, what it does and how restrictive it is, right? Like, I would never impose something on a company like Amazon that it wouldn't also impose on a small business that would potentially hurt their earning potential. That's hard. It's hard to say a statement like that or to articulate a statement. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is I would try to regulate it in a way that takes the control away from Amazon, but doesn't take away its earning potential in some capacity. Whether that be, in a couple of different sectors of Amazon and Amazon being broken up into different pieces and different people running it. So in general, I think we're now a lot more aware of this, right? I think a lot of people started talking about this back in 2008 with the financial crisis that happened, but I think now in 2021 a lot more people are kind of way more aware that companies have way too much control in this day and age, and we need to look at that, but also not give too much control to, say, our governments, right? We are going to end it here because we're at 12:08. So I really appreciate you guys. It's a problem everyone sees, but the solution isn't easy to. No, it's not easy at all. I don't actually think that it'll be solved. I can give rosy solutions for it, but that doesn't mean that those are even going to work, right? The issue is so complex that I don't think people can justify how it works. But I really appreciate the live stream. I think we got off track with some of the discussion, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it because those are my actual feelings of where we are in the current state of, geoeconomics, not really political stuff, but more so what's happening with, say, the Chinese encroachment and the corporations that control the world today. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that kind of branch off into that spiel. I love talking about it personally. I try to avoid it typically, but yeah, I know sometimes you can step on a minefield of topics there to really get people pissy on both sides, right and left, right? So all right, take it easy. Thank you, Bongs. I really appreciate it. And thanks, everyone. Awesome live stream. I appreciate it. Hopefully, everyone enjoys their weekend. And hopefully, we see some market moves during the weekend. Take it easy, guys.